Hello everyone, wish you a very good morning. I'm Kanika Kumar, a special educator and the founder of Mindset Matter. Today I am in conversation with Shalini Kedia. She is the chairperson and the founder of Fragile X Society India. She founded the society in 2003 and has ever since been working to create awareness about the subject. Fragile X is one of the leading causes of inherited intellectual disability and autism worldwide. And today she's going to be talking about it. So let's please join me in welcoming her. Hi Shalini.
Kanika. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Okay. Should we start? Should we just jump in?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So Shalini, please help us understand what is Fragile X syndrome.
Yeah, I'm ready. We can jump in.
Okay. Can you hear me clearly?
I can. What about you? Am I
I can.
audible? You
Yes,
can.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So Shalini, please help us understand what is Fragile X syndrome.
So, Fragile X syndrome is an inherited condition which causes intellectual disability and autism.
Okay. And what leads to Fragile X? Why do some children have Fragile X?
So, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Our last pair is the X and the Y. Our chromosomes carry genes. The X chromosome carries a particular gene known as the FMR1 gene. And there are changes on that gene which are medically known as a mutation. A mutation on the on the FMR1 gene on the X chromosome shuts down that gene and shuts down production of a protein that the gene was supposed to be producing. And that is what leads to Fragile X syndrome. So basically, you're looking at a child who's going to be living without the FMR protein, which is an essential part of brain development. That is the base. It's basically a genetic inherited condition.
Okay. And it's not affected by any environmental factors, right?
Not at all. It's in your genes. You're born with it, and it passes down generations silently. And of course, after the child is born, the environment plays an important role in the bringing up of the child and stuff. But the environment won't cause Fragile X syndrome for sure.
Okay, I'm great. I'm really happy that you highlighted that part. Because especially given the Indian society, there are a lot of misconceptions and preconceived notions about how it's the parents' fault or the mother's fault that the child has some issues. So it's purely genetic. So right. So you said that it is one of the leading causes of intellectual disability and shares some symptoms of autism. So is it the same as autism? Is it different? What is it? What are some of the symptoms that you see with children who have Fragile X syndrome?
So, worldwide, the first leading cause of inherited intellectual disability is Down syndrome. Fragile X syndrome is the second cause of inherited intellectual disability. In fact, Fragile X syndrome is the only known single gene cause of autism. And that is why it is so closely linked to autism. Children with Fragile X syndrome can have autistic traits out of all the other things. I will explain. Children with Fragile X syndrome may have a developmental delay, a speech delay, a delay in their cognitive abilities. They have sensory processing issues. They can have a few of the physical manifestations would be recurrent ear infections. In fact, that's something I've really been talking about a lot. If you come across a child who is showing delays and recurrent ear infections, it's a red flag because children
Okay.
with Fragile X syndrome have recurrent ear infections. They can have a squint in the eye, and in the physical features, you will see a little long face, protruding ears, a large forehead, a prominent chin. These are the physical features. But the interesting thing about Fragile X syndrome is that the features not necessarily develop right from the start. The physical manifestation is seen much later. So in
Okay.
the beginning, all you would see is a child with a developmental delay and
Uh-huh.
probably autistic traits.
Okay. So, when these physical manifestations start to show, how early would that be? At what age?
So the physical manifestations, I mean the physical features. Now,
Right,
the
right.
manifestation, like you're talking about a developmental delay, a delay in sitting, standing, walking, talking, those things will display at an early age.
Right.
Like if you have a child who's not rolled over on time or who's not yet speaking or is not standing independently at 2 years of age,
Right.
it calls for attention. You need to go to the doctor and check what's happening. And then of course, when we take a lot of family history, um, suppose you have a parent and the mother's gone through years of IVF and she's had fertility issues, and now this child has a developmental issue and ear infections. It's a
Right.
combination that's a red flag. So
Okay.
what we strongly say is any child with a learning disability or an intellectual disability without a known reason should be tested for Fragile X.
Okay. And how does one get tested for Fragile X? Or
So
where can we
Fragile
go
X,
to get that test done?
yeah. So Fragile X is tested through your DNA, and
Okay.
that's tested via a blood sample. It's basically 7 ml of blood in an EDTA tube. Uh, we have a list of centers on our website that do
Okay.
testing for Fragile X or also facilitate it because Fragile X testing is a very specific test. So
Right.
on our website, we have a list of centers where you can contact them, or of course, they can contact us and we will always facilitate it. It's
Right.
usually, it requires couriering the blood sample either to Hyderabad or Delhi or someplace. And the results are usually out in 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay. Right. Right.
Yeah.
And you said that it causes intellectual disability. So, what are the red flags that parents can look out for?
So, the intellectual disability is something that would be visible at a later stage.
Right.
What would be visible earlier is your developmental delay in terms of achieving your physical milestones.
Milestones. Right.
Or if the baby is not smiling, not babbling, those are red flags. We have to be careful. I know
Right.
the doctors might just kill me because I'm telling families if there are delays, just go to the doctor. The doctor might think you're a paranoid mother and drive you out of the cabin, but that's fine. You're better safe than sorry. You don't want to miss
Right.
out on something. So we strongly say that, just check, just keep your just keep an eye, just see. Sometimes it's just a delay and they'll catch up. There's nothing to worry about. I'm not
Right.
saying every delay is a red flag, but some delays are red flags. They need to be addressed and cannot be ignored.
Right. Because earlier the better, you can get the required intervention on time.
Early intervention is the key because if as soon that's why we propagate awareness, because awareness will give you early intervention. And early intervention and the right intervention is
Right.
changing the prognosis of the diagnosis. You will see a complete different result in the child because of early intervention. So
Okay.
we don't want to miss out on those early formative years of the child.
Right, right. And what are the kinds of red flags that a parent or a teacher could see at a later stage once the child joins school? The
So
academic
if
related skills?
Yeah, so if you have a child who is, of course, displaying autistic features and is usually going to be termed as autism, or, he doesn't like socializing, he doesn't like to be touched, he doesn't like eating all kinds of foods, he doesn't like sand play because of texture, he doesn't mingle much with the children. He cries. Like, these are red flags that many teachers do pick up even in nursery. Like, there are some vigilant teachers, and in nursery, if they feel that, okay, this particular child does not like to play with sand and he has a problem eating different kind of textures, these are signs that there is a sensory processing disorder,
Right, right.
and the child should be evaluated and given a good remedy.
Right. Because so many of these are in sync with what a child with autism would have. How would
Right.
somebody differentiate between Fragile X and autism? And is there a lot of misdiagnosis as well?
So there is lots of misdiagnosis. In fact, I call Fragile X and autism cousins. So they are cousins, and they're connected, but they're different. What is the difference? I will tell you. 4 months ago, a 2-year-old child who was diagnosed as having autism visited another doctor for a second opinion, and the doctor was very vigilant about Fragile X. That child tried to socialize with the doctor. He tried to get friendly with the doctor. And the doctor said this is not autism.
Right,
Okay, he
right.
sent him for testing for Fragile X, and it turned out to be Fragile X. So children with Fragile X love social interaction. They enjoy being friendly. They enjoy meeting people. They're very different from children with autism, but these are like small differences which you need to be vigilant to pick up. Because if a child
Right.
has autism and Fragile X, the Fragile X is going to prevail over the autism.
Right,
So
right.
the child is going to show traits of wanting to mingle and things like that. So there are 4 major differences. Autism is a behavioral condition,
Okay.
and Fragile X is a genetically defined medical condition. Autism, there is no blood work to confirm autism. Fragile X can be confirmed with a blood test. There is no prenatal testing available for autism, but children with Fragile X can be tested prenatally. And the biggest difference is that there are a lot of research-based targeted treatments for a child with Fragile X syndrome, which is not there for a child with autism. So very often I get this argument from families, or there's a lot of resistance from families when a doctor is telling a child with autism to be tested for Fragile X. The family says that I will anyway have to go for therapies, and how much of my life is going to change with a diagnosis, which is a very fair, it's very fair from their side to have that concern.
Right, right.
But their life is going to change dramatically, because the management of the condition is going to change, and that is going to change the prognosis of the diagnosis.
Okay.
And also, it is an inherited condition. We've seen families with 3 and 4 children affected. So we want children to be able, only if they get the right diagnosis will the second child be tested, or will the family take the necessary precaution for the second child?
Right.
So a diagnosis is the key.
So what are the precautions that one can take? Is fragile egg something that can be prevented?
So I usually can't use the word prevented because some people find it offensive. What I would say is they can take an informed decision. Now, if we have a child who's 4 years old and has a diagnosis of Fragile X syndrome, when the mother wants to plan her second child, there are 50-50% chances of her passing
Right.
it on to the child. So at 12 weeks, she can get amniocentesis done and test the status of the fetus and take an informed decision whether she would like to go ahead with the pregnancy or not. It's the second thing is, with a lot of medical advances that are available now for fertility, it's possible to do PGD. So the couple goes through IVF. We have the embryos. The embryos are tested, and only the healthy embryos are implanted. So that's
Right.
like I wouldn't call it prevention. I call it
Right.
informed decision,
Right.
because the family should be ready. I mean, today, if a family, we do have some families who say, okay, fine, I still want to go ahead with it. Very good. Go ahead with it. But it's an informed decision. You've chosen it. Your attitude to raising that child is going to be very different than
Right.
you being taken for sudden shock.
So basically, it's something which one can't really do much about unless it's basically a choice between whether or not you bring the child into this world. But once you've conceived, there's nothing you can do to change it, or even before conception, there's nothing one can change since it's purely genetic.
No, so that's what the change is. So once you've conceived and at 12 weeks you test the fetus, once the report comes in, you have an option of keeping the baby or not keeping the baby. And the second is, before conceiving, because of IVF and PGD, you can test the embryo before implanting it. We
But
do
what
have
about natural pregnancies?
natural
With
pregnancy.
those, you have no way of finding out, and in case you don't have a child, a first child or a second child with fragile eggs, you wouldn't even know whether or not to test for something like
Exactly.
this. So
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
in a very limited number of cases that you can
Yeah.
actually test for
Yeah.
it at 12 weeks. Because
Yeah.
otherwise one wouldn't think of going in for that testing.
So that's why awareness. Like that's my mantra, is to create awareness. So another important point while we talk about fertility is female carriers of Fragile X syndrome, 20% of them have a low ovarian reserve and can have fertility problems. So
Okay.
ideally, before they go in for any IVF or any fertility treatments, they should be tested for Fragile X.
Okay.
So what we are saying is, if you come across a woman who has a low ovarian reserve, a low AMH, and a high FSH, before starting fertility treatments, get a test for Fragile X done. In case she's positive, it's going to change your route and your plan for her. For a woman who is a Fragile X carrier, the IVF success rate is lower. She is at a risk of having a child with the condition. So if you see our blog, there are stories of women who've gone through 10 years of IVF, and on the 11th year, they've had a child with Fragile X syndrome.
Right.
Which could have been a little different decision had they known about it.
Right. True.
Yeah.
So, Shalini, you named a few very complicated tests to be done. How does one get to know that they might have these issues? How does a woman know that she has low ovarian count and she needs to get tested?
Oh, hello. It's a very common thing. Any woman having pregnancy issues, the doctor is mandatorily going to check your ovarian reserve and your AMH and FSH. It's a very
Okay.
routine test that's done. It's not a complicated test. When you walk into an IVF clinic, these are the few criteria they will look into before recommending any kind of treatment. So these tests are common. All I'm saying is, if I'm telling the doctors this and I'm telling the lay people this, is if you have a low ovarian reserve, a low AMH and high FSH, test Fragile X also before you start your fertility treatment, because those are your symptoms.
Red flags. Right.
Red flags. Yes.
And how many doctors would you say are actually aware of Fragile X and the need for testing for it? Because parents might not necessarily be aware of it, but what about doctors?
So, the good thing is that we're getting a lot of support from the medical fraternity. Last year, the Indian Academy of Pediatrics launched the guidelines for Fragile X in India, which is an important tool for developmental pediatricians and pediatricians to follow. This year, like 22nd July is Fragile X Awareness Day, and we usually go all out and make a lot of noise. So this year, the Federation of the IVF fraternity was sent out messages on 22nd July telling them about Fragile X syndrome and the importance of testing. So we are garnering a lot of support from them, because I'm also telling the IVF clinics that, look, at the end of the day, you want a happy family and you want the family to go back with a baby. So suppose she is a carrier and she's just not being able to conceive, we can recommend a donor egg, a donor embryo. There are a lot of options which can help her achieve motherhood. Ultimately, the idea is motherhood, and that's what the woman wants. So we are getting a lot of support from IVF doctors, but of course, at our organization, we've taken it up as a 360-degree awareness approach, where we are approaching doctors, making them aware. We're making every lay person aware about it, so that tomorrow, if your neighbor's child has autism, you say, please read up about Fragile X. If you come across any woman having fertility issues, please read up about Fragile X. That's all I'm saying. Let it be an informed decision. Why should we always wait for the doctor to come up with a suggestion? If you are well-read and you go up and say, doctor, I have these symptoms, what do you think about it? There's nothing wrong in that.
Right, true. So, Shalini, we've spoken a lot about what we can do, how we can identify it, what are the kinds of difficulties and the challenges that the child might face. But what about supporting the child? Is there any kind of educational program? Is there any kind of other therapies that can actually help the child so that the child struggles the least possible?
Wow. That's a lovely question. In fact, people who watched my lives were actually saying that the same questions are asked and you're giving the same answers. What's the point of doing so many live sessions? So I said, my audience is different every time. And even if the same people are hearing the same thing, I'm getting the message home. So that's a lovely question. The therapies for a child with Fragile X syndrome will be tweaked a little as per their learning style. Children with Fragile X syndrome are imitators. They have a gestalt learning pattern. They have a lot of anxiety. So we always, in fact, on our blog, we have these animated and cartoon, I call it the quick guide for Fragile X syndrome, which tells you exactly how not to behave with the child. So if you have a child with Fragile X syndrome in front of you and he's come from the garden, you don't ask him, what did you do in the garden? Because you're going to get no answer. You're not going to get an answer.
It's a very open-ended question, too abstract.
It's no, and it's too direct. It's too direct. For a child with Fragile X syndrome, it's too direct a question. You're increasing his anxiety and he's going to be in shutdown mode. Okay. So the way you put it would be, you went to the garden and he's going to give you the answer.
Okay.
Trust me, it is that simple. And when we give these techniques to families, I mean, most of the time when I'm speaking to families, I send them the quick guide. I tell them to study the quick guide, come back to me with questions, apply the things. It's like if you want your child to come into the bedroom from the living room and you're going to tell him, listen, come to the bedroom, he's not going to listen to you. But you just walk up and get into the bedroom, he's going to follow you. Because they have amazing imitation skills.
Right.
And they have an amazing sense of humor. And there's so much you can do with the child. So it all begins with an accurate diagnosis and empowering the families with dealing with the child. See, ultimately, school and therapy is a limited number of hours that they're going for. When the child is at home, how you're dealing with the child is very important. And of course, my favorite and the first mantra of seeing progress in your child is unconditional love and acceptance.
Right.
You know, I can talk for 1 hour about it, and I know it's not easy. It's very easy for me to stand on one side of the table and say, just accept your child and give him unconditional love. But that's very difficult for families to do. But the minute they have got that, you'll see the child bloom. Right. And that is where I think the Fragile X Society plays a very important role. Is whenever a family contacts us, of course, we give them all the information. We tell them you're never, never alone. We have a 24/7 helpline. You can contact us anytime. You can ask us any question you like. No question is invalid. We have a group of around 300 families on WhatsApp. And once the family is ready, we connect them on that group. And it's like a small little happy family because all the parents over there have children with Fragile X. And they are from India or they are Indians living abroad.
Right.
And they exchange notes, they exchange success stories. We got a video yesterday. In fact, we put it on the blog of this child who learned how to cycle without side wheels. And we're all celebrating it with the family. So I think that positive approach, that acceptance is a lot more important than medicines and treatment.
Right. And I think an important part which you mentioned is also parents having the support of other such families. Parent support group, the community group is very, very important.
Yes, it is the key. It is the absolute key. In fact, I tell everyone around me, when you see a child with special needs, don't grunge and look away. Just give a smile of acceptance and compassion. And that child is going to be happy. In fact, I also say that, you know, very often I've had siblings call me to ask me, okay, my brother has Fragile X syndrome, but I don't know how to play with him. Right. And we will go through steps and we teach them how to play with their brother and how to interact with their brother. And they feel so empowered because you just imagine this little sister not knowing what's happening and she wants to play with her brother, but she doesn't know what to do. So we do a lot. In fact, we've just started a sibling support group and we've already got 8 children on it. And it's too cute because they'll send me a DM saying, okay, I have a little brother with Fragile X. Can I get added to the group? And it's really sweet because, you know, they are an integral part of the child growing up. So, yeah, so that's been quite nice.
And I'm sure these are the siblings, but other people in the society also, once there's awareness, they would also be able to interact in a much more open and accepting manner towards the child. Because the
You know
society
what?
needs to be more accepting and inclusive.
So what's the biggest message I'm going to give out for the society who wants to help is instead of looking and wondering whether you should interact or asking how are you, which is again a little challenge for the child to interact, just give him a high five. Just say hi, what's up, dude. That child is going to respond. I'm right. I can write it and give it to you. So that is communication, but you're not asking the child to speak. You're not asking the child to communicate. You are only asking for a high five, which is his silent way of communicating. And next time you meet him again at the elevator, say, hi, dude, what's up? And do it for the 5th time. And the 6th time, the child's going to smile at you. So is that too much to ask for from society? If today society can do that, imagine the mother when she comes home and she says, you know, today that gentleman in the elevator said a hi to my son.
Yeah.
It's an important step. It's a very, very important step. Creating awareness. Yeah. You know, creating awareness on Fragile X syndrome, of course, it's the core of my organization. Helping families, supporting families, but I'm saying every human being can help. You see, any child who's different, whether it's Down syndrome, whether it's autism, whether he's on a wheelchair, just share a smile. It's not going to take too much out of you.
Yeah. I think it's very important to see the person and not the diagnosis, not the label. Yeah. The moment we see the person, we don't have so many questions about what to say, how to say. Just be how you are with anybody else.
Yeah,
how you treat someone else. The more you think about what I should do because this person is sitting on a wheelchair or because of this is when more doubts come in, more attitude problems, more preconceived notions enter.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm giving you a simple tool. Just offer a high five. Don't even ask how are you today. Just offer a compliment. Oh, I like the t-shirt you're wearing. That's it. Don't ask a question. Say something. Give a compliment. Give something. Don't ask because they find it difficult to communicate. You know, we don't understand that. It's not easy for these children to communicate with a stranger. But if you just say, oh, wow, I like your shoes today, that's it. Just do that much. It's enough. It's a super start.
And I think we also need to make sure that we make the other children in the school aware of this. So that they can also make the child feel a part of the group. Because for children, it doesn't come very naturally. They need to be told, need to be made aware to practice that, you know, this is what you can do to include this child.
Yes, absolutely. So, you know, again, coming back to awareness. So a lot of resistance in society is because of the ignorance, because they are worried. Would I say something and that would offend the child or the mother? Okay, so that is a very fair question and worry they have in their mind. So that is why I'm saying give a compliment. Give a compliment, give a high five. It's a good start. It's a very good start.
So thank you, Shalini. You've made us understand what is Fragile X and what are the challenges and what we can do as a society. And I really like how you explain it so well, so simply that it's, you know, even a layman can understand it. And some people have even mentioned this in their comments. So thank you so much, Shalini.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. Lovely speaking with you, Kanika. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.